back to the Lottura Post podcast. We have a fun guest today. This is Olivia. You've just been a part of this since the beginning, so we're excited to have you on. People were begging us, essentially. We got a couple comments. People are like, bring on other people in your team. So here we are. We're doing it. We're excited. It's going to be a fun chat. Mainly, we're going to talk a lot about literature, poetry, community, because that's what you do. That's what you have brought to Lottura. Yeah, we're excited to jump into it. I'm like, how do I bring up the fact that you live in Germany? And that's also super cool and exciting. But yeah, that'll be fun to chat about. But I'll let you give a little introduction, give us just some things about you.
Wonderful. I told Bailey and Christine that I was very nervous, so you might see me fidgeting about and stuff, but I'll try my best. So I'm Olivia. I have been at the Lottura Post. Me and Christine knew each other back in the day before I moved to Germany, and so it's been really cool to see the idea form into something like tangible that you can hold in your hand. I really love that. And it's funny because I contribute poetry, like I find it, curate it, but it's not something that I've read for very long. I feel like I was picking it up here and there, like a year before Christine had reached out to me. So when she did, I was like, I don't know if I'm the best person for this job because I had just discovered a love for poetry and I had been reading a little bit, here and there and trying to dive deeper into literature. But I'm definitely an aspiring bookworm, is what I would say. My husband is far more read than I am. And so every time I come to him with this new idea of something I've discovered, he's like, oh, yeah, I read that last year. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Um, so I curate poetry and also do a little bit of writing, which has been something new and I've really enjoyed, but it's also challenged me a lot. So my love for books is definitely there. I want to read more all the time, and I'm a big fan of C.S. Lewis, and so that's mainly who I talk about with people. But I'm always wanting to hear more about what people are reading and wanting to add that to my list. So yeah, and I do live in Germany. My husband, he has a job here. We are surrounded by Americans, so I kind of feel like I'm in a mini America. At the same time, I'm also on the economy. So I do all my grocery shopping with Germans. My doctor is German. So it's very like half in, half out. But it's been cool. I've seen a lot of different cultures and it's been cool. So yeah,
That
that's
is
me.
fascinating. So
Yeah.
tell us more about kind of that place that you're in, like living with Americans, but having to go out and yeah, live among Germans. How do you kind of cross some of those cultural divides? And yeah, just tell us more about that.
I feel like it's a day by day thing. It's a struggle because most of my days I'm speaking in English with people. I don't have so much of a need for the German language, as I think a lot of people who live abroad would need their foreign, their foreign country's language to operate day to day. But I have found it the longer I've lived here, the more it's coming up. And you can get past it a little bit in that first year. You can get to the store and you're like, okay, you're cute and you're like smiling at the person. They understand, like, okay, this person doesn't know how to speak. But I've noticed like going to, get your taxes done or going to the doctor's office, there's more of a struggle there. So that I've definitely picked up some of the language, very small amounts, not very much. And I've also found that the cultural shock of being an American and wanting to do small talk and maybe not knowing the right words to say, or even like in Germany, it's a colder culture. And so small talk's not super prevalent. And especially with the language barrier, it can be difficult. So when we went outside the country into the UK, I was struck by how much I wanted that. I was just talking to random people and just like making conversation with them and realizing that I had missed that in Germany. So I've tried to incorporate that a little bit more of when I do find someone who they're willing to speak English with me, or I'm able to practice a little bit of German, it's helpful. And it kind of bridges that gap and it creates community just by even going to like the same shops and seeing the same people over and over. And yeah, it's people are lovely when you seek to find them.
Mhm.
I think when you live abroad, when the romance of the place that you're in wears off, you tend to only see the bad. And I definitely went through that phase. But I've also found like when you find those people, you really cling onto them and you also want to communicate how thankful you are for them. So I went to my electric company in Germany. This is taking a turn. I feel like this was such a silly moment of me like wanting to communicate with these people. And of course, they're so willing to speak English with me because they understand. And it was great. And they were so kind. And so at the end of our conversation, I was like, how's your family? Like I'm making this small talk with people. I would never do that in the States. Um, and it's just funny, like coming away and appreciating my human interactions when it does go well. And that making my day. That just is so sweet. And that's something that you maybe not think about in the States. I didn't. So yeah, it's been good. But the language barrier it has its difficulties. So
Yeah. Is it pretty common for people in the service sector to have English?
yes. I mean, I say that there are areas in our location. Like I had some issues at the driver's license office. They either didn't want to speak English or maybe it was lacking. And then also among the older generation, I find that they may not want to speak English. And there's different reasons for that. It might be like it wasn't taught to them, or just a lot of people who do only speak English kind of come in and they can be rude. So trying to like balance that with a kind smile and yeah, just trying to bridge the gap a little bit. It's helpful.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. How long have you been there?
so we lived here for my husband lived here for 4 years, and then we got married. We lived there for a year and a half, went back to the States, and now we've been here for another year and a half. Um,
Okay.
so yeah,
Wow. That's a long time.
yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
It's been good.
And where are you from originally in the States? Like Midwest, coastal?
Midwest.
Okay. Which
Yeah.
I find is hard when you go elsewhere and you're from the Midwest, where
Hmm.
everyone's like nice, like genuinely
Yes.
nice. It can be a little jarring when people are like, don't even look at me, don't talk to me, and not to be like they're not rude. It's just like a
No.
cultural thing that can be off-putting to us Midwesterners who,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And your mom is from Poland, correct? So you've had, like, growing up,
Yes.
lots of exposure to other cultures and such.
Yes. Yeah. I will say, I feel like the Polish culture is different than German culture, which is so funny to me because I know from an outsider's perspective, Poland, again, it's the same kind of like cold exterior, but once you get to know them, they're very warm and they're very inviting. But you have to come into the circle and small talk's not as prevalent. And I found that growing up a lot. But Germany was different. And so it's like I feel like it's just wherever you are, if it's a new place, it's going to be new and there's going to be some culture shock involved.
Mhm.
And my perception of things can be so different from another girl who's, having the same experience in a different place. I feel like it's so based on the person and their ability to how they react to change, I guess. I'm very slow. I take about a year until I feel like I'm fully myself.
Mm.
And that's something I've learned from moving over here on the second time. Like, oh wow, it takes me about a year to feel good in the place that I'm in. Whereas some people, I feel like maybe it's only a couple months or maybe it's a little bit longer. So I guess it just depends on the person.
Yeah.
You mentioned like once you're in the circle, it's really people are really warm, which I feel like is pretty common, like no matter what, even in the States, you find your people and
Yeah.
that's who you're gonna kind of rely on and whatever. And so how has that been specifically for you in Germany this second go around finding your people? Even if that is
Yeah.
Americans.
Yeah. So I had a change when I first came here versus the second time. The first time I was newly married, and so there was a lot of change in my life. I was very young. I turned 19 and went to a new country, new situation, and just naturally I was very inward focused. And so I would make friends through just shared interests. And I found this time around, it's been me stepping into the community and reaching out and connecting with whoever I'm coming across and trying to find what's interesting to you. And it's more outward. And I've found that to be very helpful to just appreciate who my community is. It may not look exactly how I want it to look or how I think it should look, but that's who I've been placed around. And so just appreciating those people, no matter if they're older, younger than me, very different cultures, whether they're German or American, and just really appreciating who they are and then creating shared experiences. So I've invited some women over for this craft night, which is like we all bring our granny crafts. So I'm trying to learn how to crochet. Some women will do embroidery or knitting. And we all just sit together in the home and we talk about things. Some will show like what they're doing. And it's been really sweet because those age ranges are like 16 to maybe 65, and it's
Aw,
really great,
that's
and it
awesome.
creates its own community, and it's not exactly, like I said, what I thought it should be or what I thought it would look like, but it's been really sweet.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that is awesome. Yeah, the doing things even when they look different than you thought they would. How else has
Yeah.
that played out for you living over there? Like you said, like once you got over the romance of the place and you have to kind of like, well, like now I live here. How do you, yeah, in everyday life, what else do you kind of experience where you're like, oh, it's not how I thought it'd maybe look?
Yeah. I think some of it has been like any woman around me in my community knows that when I first got here, I wasn't able to drive for a very long time. And they lamented with me over that because it was very difficult. Like my license didn't translate exactly to a German driver's license. So I started taking the train, which is very accessible here. And just like I think just being limited in a way that I hadn't experienced before. Like in the States, once you get a license at 16, it's pretty common to just drive everywhere you go. And it's kind of rare to walk anywhere because everything's so far away. And so I found that when I first got here for the first year, I was only taking a train and just feeling the limitations, but also accepting that this is part of the culture here and being grateful for it and seeing the beauty of it. So like the romance wore off about the second time where I had to carry my groceries back. And oh, the other thing is Germans they shop smaller or they go more frequently to the store. And so instead of like a 1 week shop that you would get all your groceries like in the States, they maybe go like 3 or 4 times a week, which was such an adjustment for me because I'm like, everything just feels so much smaller. Like America, we
Mm-hmm.
have the huge fridge and the huge trunk and it's fitting, but at the same time, I had to adjust. And there's a little friction there every time you adjust.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just taking the train and being limited. So, like I said, the romance wore off the second time. And then I had to rebuild that and just see it with the right lens. So like, I know it sounds silly, but when the sunlight would come in the afternoon while you're taking the train and you've got like fresh flowers, because that's what they have here in Germany and you always buy them. I'm like, that's romantic. I love that. And so just seeing the beauty despite it being different. Does that answer your question? I
Yeah.
feel like I might have gone on a rabbit trail,
No.
but
No.
I
Yeah.
think that's like just a really helpful perspective, and like not just for someone who moves somewhere internationally and has to live in a new culture, like that can be said for anyone who's feeling maybe a bit more, yeah, I mean like they've lost the romance just of life in general. Like
yeah.
oh, my old worn couch, oh my, my dirty rocking chair. Like you start to lose some of the glamour of the things like when you first found them and loved them. And I think that's where like social media comes in. And it's like, oh, you just get something new, get something different that you like. And we really get sucked into that, where instead it's like, what if we just had a perspective shift and learn to remember why we love this in the first place? What can we do to help us love it again? And I think everything you just shared there, yeah, I mean, can apply to anyone, if you're feeling burdened by something in your life. It's like, okay, how can I just like change my perspective and
Mhm.
find romance or beauty or whatever it is? Yeah.
I totally agree. And I found this, really, it was funny because when we lived in the States, we lived in this really small apartment. It wasn't anything cute. In fact, I was really sad when we moved there because I was like, this is not what I wanted. And yet that place became so sweet
You made
to
it
me.
so cozy.
Oh, I know.
It was so cozy.
And it like, it challenged me to make it cozy, right? Like it was difficult and you had to be creative, and yet it was so lovely and just being inspired by whatever you have.
Mhm.
And that was really hard too because we shipped all of our stuff when we moved here. And so we were without our things for a little bit longer than normal. So it usually takes about 2.5 months, but for us, it was almost 6 months
Oh,
because the docs had like striked right as soon as they
oh
had shipped our
Oh
stuff.
no.
no.
And so I was so challenged not having my things, being in a furnished apartment, that wasn't wasn't my stuff,
Yeah.
and just struggling with that of identity and who am I in my little home and missing my things. So when I did open my stuff up, I was like, it could be shattered. And it's like, that would be really sad. But at the same time, I have my things.
Mm.
It's not perfect. But just appreciating what you do have, no matter where you are. I
Yeah.
think it's been very helpful.
Yeah. Possessions are such like that's been something I personally have been walking through a lot with lately this last year is possessions. We, very long story, but lost almost all of our possessions in the fall. And we don't just like have money to go and rebuy a whole house's worth of possessions.
Mhm.
And so then it's like, okay, these are the few things I have left. How can I make the best of this? And now how can I not sit and be sad? Because, and it's just the battle of like you're sad because they're your things. And then to see it all just gone is like sad. But I'm also like, but I don't want to just sit around and be sad about it because that's not going to make this feel like a home either. And so it's like, yeah, how can you find contentment in what you do have?
Yeah. I actually have a question around that, Olivia. In Germany, Germans that how do they kind of view possessions and because it's also so related to hospitality, right? Like
Mhm.
creating a cozy home, having dishes to be able to serve people, like that is it's part of hospitality. So how have you seen that play out
Hmm.
with people there?
Well, with the Germans, I know because I feel like it varies. There's definitely a modern shift. People are getting rid of overall in Germany, like their antiques, which I love because I get
Mm-hmm.
to have them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it makes it very fun, like basically everyone's kind of getting rid of their grandmother's things, but I feel like that's pretty common across the world. But in Germany, I've found that they're curated in the best possible way, where they are not just purchasing and getting rid of. There's a lot of intention behind it, coziness, and I feel like there's an appreciation for something that's well made, specifically with furniture. And I think that, we have IKEA and stuff, which is great. It has modern stuff and it can be helpful, but there is not like a Target or a Walmart. Do you know what I mean? Like you can go into a place and if everything's from Target and you shop at Target, you kind of pick up on that and
Mhm.
that's okay. Like it's a season sometimes, but also I've noticed that it's very unique to the people that live in the home and I feel like that's a good thing.
Mm.
And what I don't know whether that's, just things being passed down, maybe different social media habits, I'm not sure, but there's definitely an appreciation for what's handmade, crafted, which makes a beautiful home no matter if it doesn't match, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Do you live in a touristy area?
I live in a non-aesthetic area.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because I mean the American influence is strong here. So like we have Heidelberg very nearby. It's like a 30-minute train ride away, and we love to go there because you do feel like you get the German experience. And I mean, if you drive anywhere within 20 minutes, you'll hit small German villages. So it's not super touristy, but there's an American influence where sometimes it feels like you're in the Midwest a little bit and you're like, oh, this is not this isn't Germany. But then there's pockets and it's not difficult to get out of that. So
Mm. And
That's awesome.
you've gotten to travel a decent amount too since you've been there. Like where have you all been able to go?
yeah, it's been amazing. So we've traveled a lot more the first time we were here. So we went to Italy, went all over Italy, and did a big backpacking trip and took packs, and it was great. We loved it.
So good.
We've gone to Switzerland quite a few times because it's only 4.5 hours away. So we've loved going there. We took some friends this last December and hiked in the Alps, and it was
Oh,
lovely.
Yeah.
I know
Wow.
it's so fun.
Wow.
Um, I personally I do like Paris, and so when a friend comes in, I usually will take them to Paris. So I've been a few times in
because how
France.
far is that from where you are?
It's I feel like off the top of my head, I think it's like an hour and a half by train, by like a bullet train, maybe 2 hours.
Oh,
Yeah, it's really, really easy to get around. I feel like we're close to a lot of things, so
I think
it's
Bailey and I
been
need to hop on a plane over to
Yeah. See
please
you.
do.
See you soon.
See you soon. Bailey's like,
Please
I still
do.
haven't adjusted back to
Yeah.
your
I can
time.
just get
I
back on a
know.
plane.
Bailey got back from Italy last night for those listening, so she's
Yeah.
still on Italy time.
Yeah. And I was actually talking to a guy in the airport, a German guy, and he was coming to the States for the first time. And we were talking about food. He was
Oh
like,
no.
I heard it's bad. I'm like, if you're
Mm,
coming from here, like, yeah. But he was so interesting because he was even like, yeah, tomatoes here are not Italian tomatoes. Like they don't taste the same. Like you got to go to Italy to have a good tomato. And I was like, because he's like, yeah, they travel, a few hours by plane and they're already different. And I'm like,
mm,
that's so insane because here in the States, we're all eating food that has been flown in from somewhere else,
Mhm.
basically, unless you make a concerted effort to find a small farmer and eat locally, like you are eating food that's been flown in. And so to hear someone say, I don't like the tomatoes here because they're just better, I can just jump over to Italy and go I'm like, that's amazing. And then when we were going around, my friend and I, like I really wanted seafood and I was 2 hours off the coast and couldn't find it. And then so we went to the coast, we had really good seafood, and she's been there quite a bit. And she's like, yeah, they really focus on locality. Like
yeah.
why move it 2 hours over if you can just go eat it where it's freshest?
Mm.
Yeah.
Like, oh, good point. I don't, yeah. The focus on locality there was fascinating. I don't know if you have any things along those lines, Olivia, that you feel like you've experienced too.
I just wholeheartedly agree. I feel like I'm learning every day like what I should be buying.
Yeah.
Because I mean, going to a store and you can't read anything and you don't know necessarily what to look for. But I've learned, like somebody in a grocery store will be like, "Oh, get this, honey. Like this is where you should go." Or like trying to find the farmers and like developing a connection with them. It's been a journey. It's not easy. But I find that's like wherever you go, you have to start over again. You have to make your connections and yeah, it's fun.
Mm.
But yeah, I totally agree. And there's definitely like we can't find any seafood here,
Mm.
which at first frustrated me because I really missed it. But then I also realized I'm like, okay, they have fresh produce here. Like we can go for
Mhm.
that, you know?
Mhm.
So it's a lovely perspective. We
Mm.
don't have that in the States.
Yeah. Yeah. Truly, like we just conveniently move it all around
Mm.
without
Yeah.
realizing the cost that there is behind
Yeah.
that and like how nothing is ripe, truly ripe.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when you like go to anywhere that where the food is local from, you're like, what have I been eating? Like in the
Yeah.
Caribbean, you're like, this is a banana? Like, what am
Yeah.
I eating? It's not
Yeah.
even it's not even close.
It's
It's
So
wild.
true.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like something I've been thinking about a lot lately is simplicity and what is
Mm.
simplicity and also what is wonder and like living with wonder. And I feel like when you focus on local, whether it's foods or communities or whatever it is, like looking at actually what's around you and not what's like the false sense of what's around you that technology can kind of give, you're like, oh, this is very simple. Like these are the things I'm able to get. Like I know at our local co-op where I pick up stuff from local farmers, it's like, oh, I have three produce options this week if I don't go to the grocery store. And sometimes it's like, oh, there's a sense of convenience of living in America. Oh, you can have everything you want. But then nothing's exciting then. Because you're like, oh, if I eat strawberries year round, like on our way home from church this morning, I saw a strawberry stand and I was like, oh, fresh strawberries. And I got very excited. And I'm like, if I had just been eating strawberries all year round, I would have not felt like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, yeah, kind of like pulling back, whether it's, yeah, possessions, food, whatnot, it just does bring more of a sense of wonder.
Yeah, I totally agree. And something I hadn't, it sparked what you had said about strawberries. I have noticed that Americans eat very seasonally. So we don't have as many options in our grocery stores. So, like, strawberries is a great example that just kind of disappears. And then we just recently got them in. And so it's like really exciting.
Hmm.
And it's just, I think it, kind of ties into some of the articles that have been written in the Post. You do have wonder of like incorporating a new ingredient that you hadn't been working with. And exactly like you said, like just simplifying things and appreciating them when they're really
Hmm.
good. Like lately, I've been doing mascarpone.
Mm.
I think I'm saying that right. Um,
Mm-hmm.
with some cut up fruit,
Mm.
and that has been strawberries lately, and some honey. And it's like that's okay. Like I don't need to make anything extravagant for a dessert. Like
Hmm.
that is
Mm-hmm.
enough, and that will change as we get closer in the summer. So it's just really lovely, and I think it takes away a lot of the pressure
Mm.
to make all these things all the time when we really could have a few meals we're rotating through each
Hmm.
season.
Yeah.
And I found that to be really helpful. And back to grocery shopping, like I would go in with my cart in my very American way to buy everything I need for the week. But then you end up overbuying because you're like, well, I could use this, so I'll buy it anyway. And then it might go bad, but at least I have it,
Mm.
which is not the healthiest I've noticed. Like, try to refrain from having that mindset. And I've just seen people, they go in and they prep their next two meals. And they're like, okay, well, I think I want zucchini tonight. I'll have that. And they're
Mm.
just taking a few items and it's very intentional. And I've tried to incorporate that as much as possible, which has caused me to eat more simply. So
Hmm.
it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I've gotten less scared of making the same thing multiple times a week.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, I'm craving this right now. Maybe it's a sign that my body's craving it because it's in season and it makes sense. And it fits the weather. And then I make chili 3 times a week. And you're like,
Why not?
great.
Mhm.
But then, yeah, it simplifies like what ingredients you need. You're like, oh, this winter, I'm always craving this. So I'll just have the ingredients I need for that on hand. And yeah, switching that out. Like now we're coming into spring. I feel like I'm like, oh, I'm starting to want some different types of foods. And then that's where you can get creative. You don't have to be like creative
Yeah,
every single week with your recipes. It's like just switch it up every once in a while. Way less pressure.
Be
totally.
inspired too, like by what's available. I think to be inspired about or by what is actually there.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to search so hard for inspiration. Nature is
Hmm.
really good at giving it to you because it's cyclical.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Hmm. So now I want to get into literature.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about like locality and whatever, and I feel like in America we've also kind of we're one dimensional in our literature. Like even our school systems, we all learn the same thing. Totally fine. I get like standardization can be good, but just like different foods grow in different places at different times of the year, I feel like the stories that we read should also reflect a sense of place and the people that live there. And yeah, and so I'm just wondering if you've experienced, and maybe not even particularly in Germany, but just in your reading, have you experienced stories from different places that would really only kind of make sense to that place and time? If that makes Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, I think so. I I was kind of contemplating this, um, like folklore and the books that I'm reading, and I'm reading Beowulf right now.
Mm.
Um,
I just
and
bought that.
it's so good. So
I
good. I
yeah.
actually have it right here. I have the Burton Raffel
Okay.
translation.
I
So
got I got the Tolkien one for my birthday.
yes, my husband's reading that one, and he's comparing because we're
Okay.
reading the same translation.
Okay.
So let me know how you like
Yeah,
it.
I haven't gotten to it yet. Well, I went for my birthday. My husband took me into a bookstore and I got 14 books. So
Yes, that's awesome.
making my way through.
I love it. Um, so I've been reading that and definitely finding that like I haven't been to well, I have been to England. I haven't stayed in England. I've been mainly in Scotland. And I've also picked up like Selkie, The People of the Sea, which is like Selkie stories.
Mm.
And that like to kind of contrast both of them, because I'm not super well versed in this topic.
That's
But
okay.
just in my reading, it does make sense because things are so old. Just simply put, like the buildings are, you're seeing something from like the 1500s here in Germany or the 1300s. And some of it has even like been marred by World War II. And just to see something so old and something so truly recent, like they're combined, definitely produces an awe. I think that it can kind of scare you at first because you realize how quickly your life is going by.
Yeah.
and and you think about the people who lived before you, and it's very sobering. And so there's definitely an awe at the stories themselves and the places that you're going to. Like the Highlands specifically. I've had two places make me cry, which is the Swiss Alps and the Highlands.
Mm.
The Highlands is just so vast, and we were driving through and hiking, and there's just so much that you won't ever get to explore or see. It's just empty.
Mm.
And like the stories about fairies, I love those. I think those are great, and how they're like in the woods, and just all of them, they're being passed down through people, and you're experiencing that through the nature that you're in. And so when we walk through the woods, it can be, you have this long path that's been created by people and you're walking through, but then there's so much that you're not exploring. And you can kind of get lost just looking through it, and it becomes dark. And I think, maybe I think that them observing that came first and then the stories followed. But I think also to have the imagination to remember those stories as you're walking through and to not lose the wonder of what you're looking at is magical.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And so I think that they kind of work together. Like the nature itself, what we're experiencing does produce the stories, but you also have to read them in order to appreciate the nature that you're seeing.
Yeah. What's one thing Josh and I talk about? We've been talking about this a lot lately, actually. Folklore, fairy tales, literature. And just talking about how like our American culture is so black and white. We're like, it's right or it's wrong. It's true or it's not true. And also, like if we ourselves haven't experienced it, we have a really hard time being like, oh, that could be real because I haven't seen it. So like it probably isn't real. I feel like that's kind of a tendency. And especially when you start diving into some of these ancient stories. They are so fascinating, and to go into it and read it with a sense of wonder and not just being like, oh, it's just like a little fairy tale over there, like giving it like respect and perspective. I just think, yeah, it can really help with that sense of wonder and also just gaining some reflection on the culture that it was born out of.
Well,
Absolutely. I was just thinking, like, not having chronological snobbery, which I think Lewis has said, so I use it all the time.
Yeah.
Um, just like not viewing people as dumb.
Yeah.
Like they didn't, you know,
Yeah.
and we can get into the debate of like, did it really happen? Did they really see
Yeah.
stuff? But I do think like just appreciating that, it one of my favorite things about literature is that it is shaping who you are, whether you realize it or not. And I think that's why fairy tales, stories are so good for children,
Mm.
but they're good for adults too.
Yeah.
Because Beowulf, like specifically, as I'm reading this, he is fighting these monsters. He's like the hero of the story. And yet you see his weakness, you see some of his pride, you see him overcoming that. And it shapes you without you having to like listen to a lecture on
Mm.
pride or weakness of humans. Like you start to just understand it, but it's like in your heart, which is so much better than just in your head.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't really know where I was going with that, but
Yeah. That's
I'll get onto
excellent.
that.
Yeah.
I think it's
forever.
excellent.
That's why I love
Yeah.
Anna Karenina, because you're just like,
Ah,
I started
like
that yesterday.
yeah, you're just like, there's nothing, there's no lecture, there's no logical, systematic way you could tell me these things, and I'd be like, oh yeah, but like reading that, and you're like, I get it, like
Mm.
I get the emotions, I get the feelings, yeah. Anyway,
I started it yesterday.
I hope you
it's one
love
of
So
my
it.
it's
favorite
like
books.
I'm
So
very
good.
excited. That's
So
one of the birthday ones I got.
so good. But I want to go back to what you're talking about with the fairy tales, and like why I think stories being local is also important, because in our American minds, if anyone outside of the Highlands, like if they take those stories and start reading them, they can have the debate over like, did this actually happen, or is this real, blah blah blah, because they're outside of the context. But like once you put yourself in the context, that debate goes away, because you're also walking through the Highlands and you're like, of course, like it's just like a
Yeah.
feeling, like you see why people's imaginations are opened, you see why a certain story would arise out of what you're seeing physically, and then those questions go away, because it's like
Yeah.
they
I
are so local.
really think people are like way more intuitive than we give ourselves credit for. It's like when you walk into a house, when you go places, you get feelings. And when you're putting yourself in the place of these stories, like you can just like really understand like, oh, this story arose out of something. And if I'm honest with myself, I get the feeling.
Yeah.
It's an
Yeah.
unspoken feeling.
Yeah.
I think also if we were to walk into the time frame in which it was written, that would
Yeah.
also remove a lot of questions because we're just like really trying to put ourselves in it. And it's like, that was 1,000 years ago. I have zero context to what that culture was like.
Yeah. Even 200 years ago, like
Right.
it changes so fast, and we don't even realize how fast it's changing. Yeah, but It, yeah. I just love stories. I love literature. I love the stories that shape us. And it's also interesting to see what becomes a classic. Like, the classics are the classics for a reason.
Mhm.
And they are still tied to their time and place, but they also kind of like transcend it in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I view the classics through an American lens, and maybe they're only classics here, but I doubt that's true. I'm sure the great classics. Yeah, go
Yeah.
Olivia.
No, I love this topic, so I get
Yeah,
very
yeah,
excited.
yeah. Let's
Yeah.
hear it.
Um, I feel like I have two examples. One is the Iliad.
Hmm.
And to be honest, like when I try to explain what happened after I read that book, I don't really understand. Because all I know is I finished the book and I was explaining it to my husband and I was like, I don't know why, but I am so sad that that is over.
Mm.
And it was like a tough book to get through. It was my first introduction to the Greeks, and it was hard. Like
Hmm.
I didn't fully understand what was going on the whole time. But something had changed, like in me from reading this book. And then something that I could explain was reading Jane Eyre and understanding, like, okay, she makes this decision in the story. Like you're relating to her and her whole life, you're seeing her and you're relating to her in pieces. And then she comes to this point, and I don't want to spoil it because I know, like, I didn't read it until I was like 21, so I don't know who could be listening, but she comes to this point where she finds out something that's so devastating to her, and you mourn with her, and I feel like it's just so you feel the heartbreak of a character, and it's as if you're walking through their shoes. And when she makes the right choice, I almost had this moment of like, I wouldn't have done that. I would have been weaker, and it showed this flaw in me, or just weakness in me, that I had to reflect on. But I think that's what makes classics so great, of just displaying this human experience. I was talking to a family friend of ours, and she was talking about stories and how she was like, I just can't believe humans have been this way the whole time.
Yes.
People are people
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
struggle.
yeah.
Mhm.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. That's like, okay, I love the point you just made. Like, good literature forces you to put yourself in it
Mm,
and see how you would act in real life. And like you
Mhm.
said, though, I don't know if I'd be strong enough to make that choice. And then there's also literature where the character makes the wrong choice, but it can
mm,
look like the right choice. And it makes you, I think good literature really is like the best moral teaching that you
yeah.
can have. Like,
Mhm.
that is why it lasts. And that's why people have stories that they pass down and have the ones that are yeah,
Yeah.
they're classic ones because they're so good.
And that's another thing I've been thinking about a lot lately with literature. I know I've talked about this some with you already, Bailey, is the another layer of like what distinguishes good literature from okay or bad literature. And I feel like there's this sense of it not revealing everything. Like I think a lot of modern day literature, American literature I've read, like it's so black and white. They just kind of give it to you on a silver platter. This is what happens. This is the why the character did it, yada yada. And I feel like those are the books you read, and you're even if it's a good storyline, you like read it, enjoy it, but then you like completely forget about it because there's no sense of needing to mull it over. Where some of these books, like the Iliad, like you were just saying, you're like, wow, there's a lot of layers. I really
Mhm.
have to work my way through. And that's why those are books you want to read over and over because every time you read it, there's something new. And I think that's been something I've been thinking about a lot lately is okay, that's what makes really good reading, writing. So how can we bring that into the newspaper? How can we make this not just like here's what you should do. Here's how you should bring beauty into your life. Super practical, but like, how can we bring that sense of wonder and like layers? And I don't know, I kind of want to ask you about that, Olivia. Like, how do you see that? How do we
Yeah.
do that?
I think it's inspiring, and it's like allowing the reader to take whatever they need to take from it where they're at.
Mm,
And I feel like exactly like what you guys said about literature, you read and you read the story and you understand it the first time. You get the plot line, you get the characters, and then you reread it again and you're like, "Whoa, I didn't even and I didn't even realize that." And the reality is you have changed since you read it.
mm,
And I feel like that's the beauty of what we're doing, because it's not news focused. It's not like a newspaper that's like, here's the daily news of this week, because that's just tossed away and not new anymore. But for what we're doing, it's something that is timeless. And I think it's rooted in truth, goodness, and beauty. And I always believe truth and goodness starts first and then beauty follows. And so having a team that's rooted in that, like beauty and inspiration and wonder and enchantment, like they are byproducts of goodness. And I really see that reflected in the paper. I see that in the poetry that I'm reading, and just understanding that not everything's going to hit the same for each person, but that's okay,
mm,
because then maybe, in a year they come back to that paper and they're like, "Whoa, I didn't even see this article.
mm.
I didn't even understand it." And that's completely subjective to where they're at.
Yeah.
So, I love it.
Yeah. I feel like that's why I so just really firmly believe that anyone could pick up our paper and love it. Like, I don't think we really don't have like a target audience. I don't
Mm-mm.
think. Some articles might speak to some people, some might speak to others. And a lot of the articles are written out of that author's experience. So I feel
Yeah.
like you can't like judge or get annoyed at someone's article because I'm like, that's their experience. And if you don't relate to that at this point in your life, then read something different.
Yeah,
But
it's okay.
right, and it's fine. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. Like the the people pleaser in us is like, "Oh, I have to like and agree with everything." And it's like, it's okay if you don't. Like let it go.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, we are putting so much effort and we just genuinely want this to be the best it can be. And so how can we do that like from a literature perspective and just a good writing, good content perspective?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the poetry that you always choose is always so, so good.
And it
Like,
blows my mind
yeah.
because you send me the poetry with no context to what's in that issue. Really.
No.
And I'll read it and I'm like, oh, this would go perfect next to this article. I'm like, how? We're like this.
I
It's
know, I love it.
yeah, it's always so good. But how do you see, so we were just talking about literature and stories. How do you see poetry also contributing to the way stories and literature shapes us?
Mm. Well, so I always had an appreciation for poetry. I found it very lovely to listen to, but it wasn't something that I reached for or like tried to grab or was reading consistently. But I did have a kind of like a dark night of the soul a year ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, maybe 2 years ago. And, I mention my husband a lot. He has inspired me to read because he himself has done it and has changed so much through that. But he has loved poetry for a long time. And so during that season, I was just wrestling with changing in life and being different than I was in high school and, growing up. And reading literature that showed a lot of weakness in me and just being really down about that, and I think that's natural. And poetry really was there to lift me up. Specifically, there's an author. I have his book here as well, John Donne, which is such a funny name, but it's his complete English poems. And he has some just beautiful work, and it's very emotional, very spiritual. And for and it's like somebody can pick up those poems and it not mean anything to them, really. It won't strike them. But for me, it was perfect for the time. And so with that, it's like my world, which completely changed because I started like, okay, what am I missing? So I started reading E.B. Browning, which we just featured. She's a featured poet in the Post. And I just found that her voice was very much like matching my internal dialogue. And so I was like, what is this? This is so cool. And funny enough, as I've changed and as I've read more poetry, I don't necessarily feel that way anymore, even though I love her, but I've changed. And so it's interesting to see who I've begun to read and begin to like really appreciate their poetry and how I can see how I'm changing through that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That is cool.
yeah.
I love that.
That, yeah. I'm like trying to take in what you said.
I also might have gotten off of what you asked. What did you
No,
ask
No,
again?
no.
No, you didn't.
I felt like a mic drop moment.
Yeah, like
Oh,
Yeah. It was
it
good.
makes me want to read more poetry because I also don't. Well, and
Yeah.
what I actually have loved about the poetry that you choose for each paper and why I love it, I've told Christine so many times. I'm like, this is my favorite. The poems are my favorite thing to read, and I think because you have done such a good job, one, they all kind of work together, the pieces that you pull for that issue, and two, they work in that season. And so it makes it so much easier to read something that was curated for a specific purpose. And I don't think, like, I was reading March this morning and the poem about March. I'm like, I love it and I'm reading it and it's beautiful because it's very applicable or like very connected to the time and the seasons. And I probably wouldn't have enjoyed reading it as much at a different time, you know? So
Yeah.
it's you've done such a good job and opened, I think, a lot of doors for a lot of people, maybe to new poets and new ways to view poetry. Yeah, I really, really enjoy what you bring and
We get
unique
so
job.
many comments and messages about like, I loved the poetry, or like my cousin had texted me, she's how much she'd been enjoying it. And she says, I've even like cried over the poetry a couple different months. And just like
That's so
very like
wonderful.
those are the kind of that's the kind of feedback we've been getting. And I mean, I feel the same because I it's like you were just saying, Bailey, when you go in and you read it in an issue within its context, and also when it's layered against other things, like you see it paired with a photo, or you just got done reading this matriarch article, and then you go and read it, when you've built the layers around it and then read it, it evokes so much emotion.
Yeah.
I have gotten so emotional reading some of those poetry excerpts.
Same. And I think the difference with like some and I love to hear your thoughts on this, Olivia, but like just reading books of poetry where it is just kind of like poem after poem after poem. Like I wonder what I don't write poetry, so I don't know, but like a poet's intent is probably not just for you to sit down and
Read
flip through
through
all
it.
their poems at one time. Like even their poems when they write them, they have context and like it arises out of a certain situation or whatever. And so yeah, do you have anything like
Yeah.
how to consume poetry?
Ooh.
The practical segment.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I feel like such an amateur. I feel like somebody's gonna listen to this and be like, that's not actually how you should do it. But this is how I've come to love it.
Yeah.
I feel like listening to it out loud, reading it out loud is very helpful.
Mm.
Something that I think in school, like you kind of learn the science behind like, okay, this is how you make a poem. And that's great. It's, I did that. It was helpful. But what I've noticed is there are poets who you just come to love because you read their things and it just makes sense to you. Like I said, like E.B. Browning, like this is my voice. Like she's speaking what I think and it's beautiful. And so I think like with, Emily Dickinson is another one who's great to read out loud, even though she is strikingly dark at times and you're it just surprises you. And so each poet has their peculiarities, I guess, and their uniqueness in their voice. So I think consuming it is what sounds good to you, like what do you like to hear, and like H.W. Longfellow has slowly become one of my favorites, and you can hear his voice through the poetry. It's as if he's like shouting to you,
Mm.
and it's beautiful. So it's whatever speaks to you. And I think not stressing yourself out to buy a book of a person's poems. Collections are really great. Like finding, okay, this person wrote 10 really great poems. I'm going to find the one that I really like, or maybe two. And then if I really enjoy their poetry, I'll buy their own works. So collections are great just to be exposed to who
Mm.
you're drawn to. And I'm trying to think of what else.
That's a good
And
tip.
then
I
just,
like that one.
yeah. And then exposing yourself to lots and lots of poets. So
That
yeah.
I love the tip to like read like a bunch, not just get one person's book, because I think that can be where it gets like really redundant. Because it's like, oh, maybe that wasn't the right poet for where you're at in your life. Maybe you needed someone different.
Absolutely. And I feel like, so I don't really read a lot of modern poetry. And I've found that's actually really helpful because the moderns are working on the old people. So just going back to the originals is helpful. But just like no stress, no pressure. You're not, taking a class or anything. You're just doing it for the enjoyment of doing it. And so I don't have a whole lot of knowledge on poets, but I do know that I have a few that I gravitate towards. And there's something about the way they put words together or the way they view the world that I just really resonates with me. And so it's, yeah, just enjoying it. I think that's a key, like to actually enjoy it and not just suffer through it because you should like poetry or something,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, I have found myself on certain poems, like the one on your front page in December. It's a really long
Mm,
one. I That
yes.
one really hit me. There was just something about it, and I found myself just thinking about certain lines of it over and over.
Mm,
Just like dwelling on like one little part of it. And it was fun to kind of come back to it and be like, okay, now I thought through this section of it. Now I'm going to think through this section about it today. And then it just kind of like be in the back of my mind. I've always enjoyed poetry. I've never been like I am definitely not super knowledgeable about it either.
yeah.
But the way it's been put through the newspaper, I'm like, okay, I'm getting it. Like, I get it. I am understanding like how to consume it.
I love that. That's so good.
Mhm. You're
Yeah.
like you're like our teacher. All of our
Oh,
readers.
wow.
You're the teacher.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I have really enjoyed it. And I mean, it does force me to read more than I usually would, which has been such a wonderful thing. So I'm growing through it, and you guys are going through it too. So we're all growing together.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. I feel like each issue, I don't even know if getting better is the right term. Each issue kind of
Yeah.
like changes and takes its own life. I think as like our team, like us ourselves, none of us came into it as experts at newspapers and literature. Like we were just
Yeah.
a group of gals who were like, we see a need for this. We love this. Let's make it happen. But it's been just as transformational for us as it has been for our readers. Because like we are learning so much about ourselves, what we enjoy, what we love, what we want for our life. And the newspaper is the tangible extension of that. And so I just see it morphing and getting better and like really leaning into the things that we are desiring, especially when you look at like March is issue versus September's. Like it's, in my opinion, it's so different. It's
I
just, yeah.
just, something that I noticed, and I don't know if maybe our readers would agree with this, but the more I'm reading poetry, the more I want to write poetry.
Mm.
And I've been really hesitant to do that just because when you read the greats, you're like, oh, I can't. How do I put this better than she did, or even to the same extent, like to be equal? And it's not possible, I don't think. But I have found it like coming out of me. And
Mhm.
so just like last October, I was in a beautiful moment and the colors were changing, the sunlight streaming in, and I was like, I want to write something
Mhm.
about this. And it was very small and it was very humble. and it's in my like phone notes app, you know, it's not written down anywhere like it probably should be, but it was such a sweet just growth for me because I've been reading all these poets and you just want to add a little bit, you know, your little part. And I feel like that's very natural.
Yeah.
That good writers are good readers. And so I find that like our team, like we're consuming all of these things that are good for us. And then it's just kind of coming forth. And I think it's good. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I love that. And I hope that's what our readers then get to experience too. Like what you consume really does change what you put out. And
More than it's like
So true.
incomprehensible how much it changes what you like the things you're putting in your mind really are the things that are coming out. And it has been really interesting. Like I've always loved reading. I like never been super strong on the poetry front, but like the literature, I have read a lot of books. And I have noticed it shifting as the more we're getting into the paper, like the list of books I'm reading is just kind of it's changing. And I like it. I'm like, this feels right for like where we're at right now. And I feel like I'm just like looking for like where can I get like more and more depth? I keep finding myself, I just like I want something like real. I want something that makes me sit out on my front porch looking at the sun and thinking about the hard things of life. I want it to actually change me. And that's just been really, really fascinating to go from a teenager who will read any book in the library just for the sake of reading to being like, I'm going to this bookstore and this is my list of books. And
it's usually the books that have been around for a while.
Yeah.
Like people agree this is worth your time. Because my husband and I, we have quite a few books in our library, and we had to we were realizing like we're probably not going to read all of these. You could maybe read like 2,000 books if you're really trying throughout your life. And like, what do I want to read?
Oh, that
And
actually scares me. It's
I
not
know.
enough. It's not enough.
It is scary. And it does make you like, you know, fiction is really good. I would recommend fiction all the time to people and I read fiction myself, but I'm gravitating more and more to older books because I find that they actually do have something that I'm like you guys said, like you're mulling over it, you're thinking over it, it's changing you, it's making you want to be better, it's making you want to change. And that's what I want out of the books I'm reading. Sometimes you have a little Harry Potter in there though. That's great
sure.
too.
Yeah.
In January, I read the Odyssey, and then I went to go start the Iliad, and I was like, need to break this. I need something in between.
Need something easy,
very easy. And I did that, and now I'm like, okay, I think I got a chapter into the Iliad, and then I got distracted by Anna Karenina. I started that this week.
So
But yeah, I love your comment about what is your time and what do you have time to read? What do you actually want to fill your brain with? Because I feel like there's been certain books that I've always had in my mind that are like the time held classics that I've always just been intimidated by. Like on my birthday bookstore run, I grabbed War and Peace and I'm like a little bit scared, but I'm also really excited.
Yeah. I think Anna, like Tolstoy, Anna Karenina, like that specifically was something that intimidated me. I was like, this book is so big. I don't think I could actually finish it. But that book is like, I was talking about that for months afterwards. Anyone who would listen to me, I was like, you got to read this. This is amazing. And if you have read it, please talk to me about it. So
I'll finish it and then we'll do a part 2. That's just Anna Karenina.
I love it. I love it.
I had something I was going to say and I can't remember. Oh, Harry Potter. Okay, I love Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I didn't actually read it until I was 20. So I feel like I came to it as an adult, kind of like, you know, not really, but all my friends had read it when they were children or middle school. And I just couldn't understand. And then I read it at an older age and I was like, I love this book. All that to say, I was walking down a little city in Italy, and I was like, I feel like I'm in Harry Potter, like Diagon Alley, like I think that's yeah, reading just can take you to different portals, like just even if it is a children's story, there's some
Well,
good
and that's
stuff.
one thing about Harry Potter. One of the many conversations Josh and I regularly have is like, why, when you're looking at like your classics that have just been for hundreds or, for a very long time, they've been held as true classics. And then you have our modern writing, but then you have a random one in there like a Harry Potter. And you're like, how, like, why? Why is this a classic? And that's been like a very fascinating thing to theorize to. And I do think it comes back to she doesn't hand you everything on a silver platter. Like the more you read it, you hear, the fan theories and all these things. She doesn't just give you the answers. There's hidden layers to things.
Yeah.
And I feel like, yeah, we're just in like this super industrialized culture where it's like, get your book out. Like, I want to write a book. I want it out by next year because I want to start making money off of it. And it's like when you think about how long it took Tolkien to write Lord of the Rings, it's like
Crazy.
Rome was not built in a day. Like,
It goes
and
back to slowness that we talk about all of the time.
yeah.
Yeah. As I get older, I do think about that a lot. Like, I don't think I would be able to put out something good until I'm like 40. You just don't have enough like life
I feel the
experience.
same
Yeah.
way. I feel the same way.
Yeah. Like I just you don't have enough experience.
Life.
Yeah, life to like
No.
say anything of substance, I feel like, until you're
Yeah.
me. I'm talking about myself. Like, I just wouldn't feel like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I agree. I think it's been like a hard battle with even the paper, for example.
Yeah.
It feels like we're doing something, to me, it feels very monumental. It feels like a big deal just because it's a big deal to me personally. Also, I'm like, I'm so young. So it's like this balance of I just don't want to sit on my butt and do nothing. I don't want to be like, oh, there's nothing out there for me to read. I'm just gonna like, I'm not good enough. I'm not gonna whatever. I don't want to do that. But I also don't want to be like, well, I have it figured out. Because I'm like, I do not have it figured out. And so I feel like that's been one thing I've like personally had to like really try and balance through as we're doing this. And I think the thing that's helped that is having a large team because I'm like, it's not just about me. It's like when you bring in what we lack in age, we have in numbers. Like we've come together and we're each bringing, like, we're combining life experience to equal what an 8-year-old woman's life experience would be.
For sure. And we all read quite a bit. And I think that's also what literature can give you, is that older perspective, especially those older books written by older people. And yeah, we do have a lot of like, it's fun looking at the paper and like all the lived experience that we do bring from a bunch of 20 to 30-year-olds. Very young, but yeah, combine it all and it's a lot of life, which is fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good.
I just, every day, I'm like, this paper would not be without the amount of people it is. Yeah. It's just, it blows my mind all the time to think about how many people have come together to make something like it. I don't know, blows my mind daily.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a poem I've been really inspired by lately. It's called A Psalm of Life by Longfellow, H.W. Longfellow. And he's kind of, at least from my reading of it, he's dealing with the darkness of life and the way you can kind of feel down because, people, there's suffering in the world, there's war going on, there's all these things that are feeling very heavy. And as a young person, you see like all these great people who did all these things before you, and you're walking in their footsteps. And it's not that you have to be 60 to do anything, which is kind of how it feels though. Because you're like, well, I am so young. Like, I feel the same way. But then we're meant to seize the day, whatever's right in front of you, like just doing that and just doing the best you can and walking in their footsteps. And it's going to look different for each of us. But I feel like in the paper, though we are young, we're trying to impact women in a deep and meaningful way, like bringing depth to people's lives that is already there, but then just inspiring them to see it, So I think it's a really unique and wonderful thing. I could talk about it forever, but
Yeah. I think we all
I love it.
and I think we all feel that way because it's been just such a gift to each of us. It's
Absolutely, yeah.
we are, most of the team doesn't read Renee's article until they are holding the paper in their hands. And Renee's article every time is just like, Renee, how do you do this?
Yeah.
And, and likewise with the poetry selections and just everything. It is also affecting us deeply. And it's also challenging each of us on the team to change things about our lives and grow. And it has brought more good into my life than I ever could have imagined when the idea first started. So, yeah. And it's kept me in touch with you, Olivia. You moved out to Germany, so we're nowhere near each other. And it is just hard to communicate long distance. I mean, there's always that kindredness of spirit where you're we're friends, we're friends. That's set. But it is just hard, you're not just gonna text when you're trying to also live in the moment, you're not just gonna be texting and messaging people every day either.
For
And so
sure.
this has been a very multiple of you guys on the team have been friends of mine who I don't live near anymore. And it's just been a real gift to be able to keep up communication, even if it's on a more work level. It's still I gotta talk to Olivia today. And it was really nice.
Yeah, I love it. It's great.
I love everything you guys said. I feel like we wrapped it up on that note about the paper, and I think we should leave it there. I love that. I truly do. Can you send me that poem, Olivia? The one that you're just talking
Absolutely.
about?
Yeah.
It sounds like I want to read it. So, yeah, I think that's what we're trying to do. We're just girls out here trying to make the most of, if you make the best of what we have and what we can. And yeah, I love it so much. So we're gonna wrap it up. We're so thankful to Olivia for jumping on in a different time zone than we are in. So thank you, because
Absolutely.
thanks for sharing your experience and your expertise that you're gaining. We love it. It blesses us every day in the paper. We hope it blesses our readers. We know it is because we get so much good feedback from it. And let us know if you want a part 2 all about Anna Karenina.
Yes. And we could maybe get a book club going.
Yeah.
I think that would be great.
Yes. So drop it in the comments if you want that. You maybe won't, but that's okay.
Very niche.
That's okay. We'll do it ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Very niche. That's okay. Or drop us your favorite book, piece of literature in the comments, because we obviously don't know everything, and we're all curating our own bookshelves. I think that's a very fun thing to do. So yeah, drop us comments of what we should read, some poems you love, or submit it to our community section in the post. Share your love of these things with other people. Yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time.